Who here was here in May when I gave the May talk? A couple of you, three. I'm tried not to repeat plants, but there are going to be a couple of repeats. But it's fall now, and we can appreciate these plants in a different aspect than they had back in May when I gave the spring version of this talk. Plants have lots of different scents associated with them. There's the ones we always think of are the flower scents, the floral scents. Those scents are there to attract pollinators. And it's fall, and there's not a lot of plants in bloom in the fall because winter's coming and they have to have time to form their seeds and things like that. But there are still a few plants that do. The other reason that plants produce scent is to deter herbivores, bugs, deer, as Marilyn has in her yard, rabbits, things like that. Deer, they don't like spicy foods. So any plant that has a strong flavor tends to deter them. And probably most of what we're going to talk about today are foliage scents. Other plant parts have scents as well. In the spring, I talked about a few roots that have nice scents. We're not doing any roots today. The third reason that plants produce scents is for communication. Some of the chemicals that plants off-gas are detectable by humans. Some are not. But the purpose of that is rapid communications. Plants don't have a nervous system and they can't speak or move. So if they need to communicate rapidly from, this leaf over here to this branch over here, or this plant to the plant next door, they will off-gas some gases, and those gases serve as a warning. Hey, I'm being eaten by a bug, or hey, I'm ready to mate, or things like that. So those are the three reasons that plants have scent. And I have a whole clipboard full of plants, and we're gonna walk around and look at some. Oh, I also did want to mention one other thing. Fall is kind of unique in that the whole season of fall has its own scent, right? We can all think of falling leaves have a kind of a sweet or a musty scent. It's not quite far enough into fall to fully appreciate them, but if we come by a place where you see a lot of fallen leaves on the ground, please stop and take a breath and see if you can detect the decaying leaves, because they do have their own scent, and it is a very pleasant scent. In fact, it's been written about quite a bit by poets and things like that, how they love the scent of fall. In fall, the temperatures are dropping, not today, the humidity is dropping, and so normally the hot air and humid air helps carry scents that we can detect to our noses, and those scents are kind of trailing off, and so our noses are now open to other scents that would normally be masked by these stronger ones, and we can detect them in the fall. So that's another way to, not just a specific plant, but just plants in general. And really what you're smelling are the decomposing leaves. There are still some carbohydrates, some sugars in those leaves. And when they decompose, they put off a sweet scent or a burnt sugar scent, stronger in some plants than in others. All right, let's take our first walk. We're gonna go this way down this sidewalk. The first scented plant we're gonna talk about today is this little grassy looking thing. You might at first glance think it's liriope, but it's not. It's a Asian Chinese plant called Acorus gramineus, whatever. And this one has the cultivar name Oborozuki. Oborozuki is the color of the moon as you see it through clouds. So kind of a cloudy, pale, yellowish, whitish color. This is a yellow striped cultivar. Here in the fall, a lot of the stripes and a lot of the bright colors from spring are fading. But it is still yellowish. The common name is sweet flag, and there is an American species, Acorus calamus, also known as sweet flag, and it is probably pretty well known. It's a bigger leaved plant. It's got leaves that look more like iris leaves. But that plant is famous, like Thoreau, Henry David Thoreau, the poet, would write a lot about it. It also has, its roots have narcotic properties, and I think he was probably taking the root and then writing about the plant. This plant, this particular version of it, the roots might also be, but it's carcinogenic. This one is much more carcinogenic than the American one, so just don't do it. But the leaves, when you crush them or bruise them, and I'm going to take a few and just pass them around, have a kind of a sweet, it depends on the cultivar, a sweet, there's some cinnamon, camphor, some other scents to it. So take it, crush them, and pass them around. And it's a really pleasant smelling. This will be one of those plants that would be really good to, if you plant it along a sidewalk where you're walking, and you walk and you can maybe step on it every now and then and release some of those scents. Yeah, just bruise it, and it's a real pleasant kind of sweet / camphor / cinnamon. There's another cultivar. I'm going to end the tour on another. If there's an optional plant after the tour is over, it's another one of these, but it has a much stronger licorice scent. And anyone who's still interested in sniffing plants at the end of the tour can follow me. I'll take you to the other one that has a stronger licorice scent. So Acorus is one of several plants that is known as a strewing herb. Anyone ever hear that term before, strewing herb? You throw it out, so in the Middle Ages and in colonial times, people didn't smell so good because they would bathe once every 3 weeks, some people once a year. They didn't bathe very much unless you were royal. And so there was a lot of body odor going on. And you would have places where people would congregate, like churches, where it'd be really crowded, and you'd have all these stinky bodies in there. And so they would take different types of herbs, Acorus being one, and throw them on the ground and let people walk over them, releasing the scents, and they would change out these strewing herbs a couple times a year on the floor. I'm going to mention other strewing herbs as we go by them. Acorus, mostly Acorus calamus, is one of those famous strewing herbs. Okay, any questions about Acorus? Oh yeah, is there any visual interest, thank you, to this plant other than the leaves? People grow it mostly for the leaves, and it does produce a flower, and it is kind of similar to, I would say, like a calla lily or whatever, but there's no big spathe. It's just the middle part, the spadix, and it's so it's not considered to be all that showy. It is interesting to see one, but it's not particularly showy. Any other questions that I can repeat before I answer? Yeah, it grows right up to the edges of water in wet spots if you have a wet spot. But it also, this is kind of, actually, there is a drainage area through here. You don't really see it, but you can grow in regular garden soil as well. I wouldn't call it drought tolerant though. All right, we're gonna turn around and go down these stairs. This is a smallish plant. This is a plant called Clinopodium nepida, lesser calamint. Okay, there's a whole lot of fragrant plants in the mint family. That family is Lamiaceae, and this is one of those plants in the family Lamiaceae. We're actually going to see several other Lamiaceae today. We're going to go by some rosemary later on and some pycnanthemum later on. We all know mint as a herb that kind of runs around the garden with biggish leaves, but there's lots, mints take a lot of forms. This one is what you'd call a subshrub. It's actually sort of woody at the base, and has these tiny little salvia-like flowers on them, and it smells like pennyroyal. I'm just gonna strip off some leaves and pass them around and inhale deeply. They smell wonderful. Yeah, and now it's stuck. That'll be the only thing we smell the rest of the tour, unfortunately. The name was? Lesser calamint. This particular species of Clinopodium is small. That's what the lesser, but there are other Clinopodiums, and they are all kind of this little subshrub type of thing. So it's a shrub mint. It doesn't run around. Mints also attract a lot of pollinators. Pollinators absolutely love the flowers, and deer do not like mint. They don't like anything with a strong flavor, and a lot of those flavors, or scents rather, that we find really pleasant, oregano, rosemary, yeah, mint, they hate. Deer don't like spicy food.
But humans wouldn't eat a whole bowl of oregano.
You wouldn't eat a salad of this, no. But you certainly could make a tea from it, and you certainly could put a little bit in, on top of some ice cream maybe, or or maybe put what's lamb and mint jelly. You could put lamb and clinopodium leaves, I suppose, right?
Yeah. Does that have a square stem as well, or is it?
It does. It's just a very small one. Yeah. So let's see if I have any other cool trivia about. Okay, so this particular species is native to the very southern Mediterranean. If you think about the Mediterranean, you usually think of the France and Italy side, but it goes all the way around northern Africa too. So, but very, very close to the coast. And this particular species, the leaves, since they're so small and easy to deal with, is popular for use in potpourri and in sachets. And like I said, we're gonna stop by several other Lamiaceae in our tour today. Questions? Yeah. So what does the genus name mean? Yes. Podium means foot. Clino, I have no idea. I'd have to Google that. Yeah. I Googled a few fun facts before, but I did not Google that one. Any other questions about Clinopodium nepeta? There's actually a genus Nepeta too. It's a close relative of this, and that one is called catmint. That's one specific species of Nepeta. There's another specific species of Nepeta, which is known as catnip, which is the one that gets your cats high. Okay, moving on. We're gonna go this way into the parking lot. Okay, our next plant is a rosemary, also in the family Lamiaceae. It is a mint relative. Now, rosemary, we have it in our database as Rosmarinus officinalis, which is the old name. It has technically been moved into the genus Salvia, so it's now called Salvia rosmarinus. Not that you guys care, because you just want to go to the store and buy it as rosemary. So I'm not going to cut any, but I do want all of you to come by and just grab a stem, brush your hand up, and enjoy the scent. Rosemary is an evergreen shrub, and as it gets old like this one, it can get a little loose in the middle, which is not a problem if that's a look you appreciate. If it's not, then it's very cheap. You just rip it out and buy another rosemary and plant it in that same spot. You can keep it tighter for longer with regular shearing, but you don't want to cut it back too hard. If you cut it too hard, you'll shear it back to a spot where it will not sprout back from. So light shearing frequently is better than once every year or two coming in and cutting it hard. This particular one is a cultivar called barbecue. And barbecue was selected for its long straight stems, which make great skewers for meat, and then you can pop it on the barbecue. It also was selected for a supposedly superior flavor. I've never tasted barbecue rosemary myself, but if you want to try it, I'll be happy to cut you a bit. You can take it home and then report back if you think it's a good smelling plant. Any questions about rosemary? That was an easy one, yeah. Everyone already knows about rosemary. Now all our hands smell like mint and rosemary, right? Okay, our next plant is right here in front of me. Now, if you guys were here in May, this is a plant I talked about in May. Back in May, it was covered with yellow flowers. It's quite beautiful. When it's not in flower, it's this sub-shrub looking thing. It's woody. This is a Mexican native plant, Mexico and extreme southwest US, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. And it's called Chrysactinia mexicana, or Damianita. I have a hard time saying that. In the spring, and we're going to be smelling the leaves. This grows in the same area as creosote bushes, right? So kind of deserty, and it has a very strong scent, kind of like creosote bush. When we came in the spring and smelled it, it had a very strong camphor smell. It was very pleasant, but it's very camphory. It's gotten fruity since then, and so it's still got camphor, but it's a nice fruity scent as well. And I wanted to share that with you because I thought I wasn't planning on including it, and then it's like, well, I love it, I'm going to smell it, and oh, it's totally different than it was back in May. So go ahead and take some of these leaves and crush them in your hand and give it a nice whiff. So this plant is not one of those kind of tame ones that's been highly bred by companies. This is a wild species that you would collect right out of the wild, and so it has this kind of more of a wild look to it. It's really better for meadow garden or something like that. It seeds around. And so we have it here, and we also have it up on the rooftop. The seeds are wind blown in this case, and they have blown up to the roof. It does not like wet feet. So it's only going to reseed around here where we have this nice fluffy permatill mixed with garden soil, very well drained xeric mix. So it will not seed around everywhere because most places are not hospitable to it. Any questions about Chrysactinia mexicana? Anyone agree that the smell is totally different than it was in the spring?
Yes.
Very fruity, very nice.
Is there a name that's easier to pronounce, maybe a common name?
Damianita is the common name, and I can hardly say that, so I prefer Chrysactinia. The prefix CHRY means yellow. Actinia, I'm not really sure, but and the flowers are yellow. So a lot of times there are no common names in English for these plants, and we will sometimes use the common name from their home country, which is in a different language and hard to pronounce. So yes, so Chrysactinia, not so easy.
Okay.
Any other questions about Chrysactinia mexicana? It's a favorite of mine. If you have a dry spot where you never get water and it's really hot, this is the plant for you. And make sure you can step on it or pinch it every once in a while. So our next plant on our Follow Your Nose tour is this shrub that's behind me. This is a native plant, native from the United States all the way down through Mexico into South America. These days it's called Morella cerifera, and the common name is bayberry or wax myrtle. Anyone ever hear the shrub wax myrtle? Yeah. That's kind of the word we use a lot around here. Yeah. This is an excellent hedge shrub. It suckers, it forms it's evergreen, it makes a great hedge, but its real story to us are the scent of its leaves. Anyone hear of bayberry candles or bayberry scented things? Yes, that's where this plant is, where those things come from. The leaves and the fruit of this plant have wax on them. And when you get one of these, turn it over and look, you see teeny tiny orangish spots on it. Those are little globules of wax that have formed on the leaf. In colonial times, they would take the leaves and the fruits, which are little tiny balls covered with wax, and they would dip them in boiling water, and the wax would melt and float to the top, and they'd scoop it off, and they'd make candles and soaps and things like that with it. And so that's where we get all the bayberry scented things you find in, what is that candle shop in the mall? I don't really know the name of that one. Yankee Candle and stuff like that, yeah. But it's a very pleasantly smelling plant, and it's an excellent evergreen hedge shrub that's also native to the southeastern United States. Any questions about Morella cerifera? Oh, this one, by the way, is a cultivar called Soleil, which is French for sun. When the new foliage comes out in the spring, it's a yellow color, but it fades to green as the season progresses. Some people say that wax myrtle is highly flammable, and what do I say about that? Basically, I don't know for sure. I've never seen one on fire myself, but the leaves are covered in wax, and wax is a lipid, and lipids are flammable. That's why candles are lipids, right? So, are wax. So I would imagine, yes, it is flammable. And I don't know, like, there's that other one, moneywort, Dictamnus albus, which you light it and it goes, you know, but that's or Lunaria annua, I think it's also called. Anyway, I don't know if this would do that. And I've never seen one on fire, but it's used everywhere, so it can't be too terrible. But if you live in a fire zone, say in the mountains or something, you maybe be careful about how close you plant this to a building, right? And there are specs or guidelines that, you know, you don't have anything really flammable within, 8 feet, 20 feet, something like that to your building. And this is going to be more of a hedge shrub. It's going to be at the back of your backyard, along your property line, not so much growing right up against the house. Any other questions about Morella cerifera? Okay, we're going to move this way a little bit. Okay, our next plant up for bids on the Follow Your Nose Tour October edition is Citrus trifoliata, and this is a cultivar called Flying Dragon. Now this is a citrus tree, and these are the orange fruits that it makes. And this is why we're here to look at this plant. Now in the spring, I talked about some citrus and we were focusing on how nicely fragrant the leaves were. And these leaves are also nicely fragrant, but we didn't have any fruit then to smell. So now I'm gonna hand out some fruits and you can see how wonderfully fragrant these oranges are. My wife, I have this in my yard. My wife likes to collect the fruit and put them in a bowl and use them as like potpourri. They have a very pleasant citrus smell. And if you guys want to take some of these oranges home, please feel free. You're doing us a favor by getting them off the ground, because they do seed pretty heavily. They are technically edible. They are not delicious. We'll say that. They have a bitter, off flavor that some people don't like. I've never tried them myself, but I did talk my nieces and nephews into trying them for a lark, and they tried it and they're like, it's okay. This is the most hardy citrus plant that we know. It's hardy to zone 6, well north of here. And it is the parent plant of a lot of these citrus hybrids, where you take a citrus and you cross it with an Ichang lemon or with a grapefruit or something else and get some hybrid, like all of those plants that we have over here by the steps. The question is, do the wildlife eat the fruit and the seeds? The rind keeps them out, but once they kind of smashed open, bugs and things like them, not so much. I've never seen a rabbit, say, eating them. This plant is very beautiful. This particular cultivar, Flying Dragon, is known for its very contorted leaves. This is deciduous. So these leaves are gonna fall off. They're gonna turn yellow and fall off. And then you're gonna have this really contorted branch thing to look at all winter. It's very pretty. It's extremely thorny. If I can maybe pull, you can see the thorns can be, that one is as long as my fingernail. Sometimes I've seen them this long. And so it's kind of a tough plant to have around if you're the gardener of the family and you have to prune it. So I have, like at home, they let this one limb pretty close to the ground. At home, I've limbed mine up so that I can almost walk under it. So I'm not always catching myself on it. Are there any other questions about Panseris trifoliata, the hardy citrus? Okay, we're gonna go this way and we're going out of the sun. Okay, our next plant is this evergreen tree right here. And it's kind of hard to see. It's close to all its neighbors. It's got beautiful dark green evergreen leaves. This is called Arboretum japonica is the botanic name. Loquat is the common name. It's a wonderful evergreen tree, and it has very fragrant flowers. Depending on the time of day and the wind conditions and whatever, it will scent the whole garden. Tim especially likes this, our gardener. The flowers smell like baby powder. Okay, so I'm gonna cut one flower and I'm gonna bring it out to y'all, and y'all can pass it around, sniff it, and smell the baby powder.
How old is that particular tree?
This garden is about 20 years old. Okay. This particular plant, though, is much younger than that. This, and I have a story about that in a second. Loquat is an Asian native plant, China and Japan and Taiwan, and is normally native to areas that are hotter than this. It's advertised as a zone 8B plant. But if you travel around enough, you can find specimens in the wild in Asia in high elevation locations. This particular one is called Wuling hardy. Wuling is the name of a mountain pass at 10,000 feet elevation in Taiwan, and where this was collected by Mark Wethington, our director. He collected seed off of it and brought this back. So this is a colder than normal hardy loquat. It blooms in the fall, which is unusual, not just its scent, but the timing. And then it produces 1 to 2 inch, they call them palms, so kind of think of them as little apples or pears, that ripen over the winter, and in North Carolina will be fully ripe around April if they survive the winter, because the fruits are not that cold hardy, and if it gets down below about 18 or so, they're gone. So in North Carolina, most winters, you do not get your fruit on your loquat. If you're in Florida, every year is good. And there are named varieties all over the extreme southern US. But up here, most winters you don't. So every 5 years, maybe more now that the weather's changing, you will get some edible fruit in sometime between January and April, but we'll say April. And it's about yay big and is kind of apple-like. And it's in the same plant family as apples. It's in the rose family, Rosaceae. Are there any questions about loquat? She asked, is it self-fertile? And the answer really is, I don't know. Okay, we're gonna move up the stairs for our next plant. Okay, this is probably one of my favorite scent plants, although I'm real fond of that Clinopodium. This is Illicium parviflorum, and it's the cultivar name called Florida Sunshine. The cultivar, it came out, there's a fellow in Florida who found some yellow seedlings, and passed them on to Tony Avent of Plant Delight's nursery, who kept it for a while, picked the best colored of the seedlings and released it as Florida Sunshine. So it's a Plant Delight's nursery release of a Florida discovered plant. Illicium parviflorum, the leaves smell very strongly of black licorice, anise, and it's called the anise shrub, or anise shrub is the common name. Now, the genus name Illicium is Latin for seductive, and it's referring to the scent, how seductive the scent is. So it's the same prefix as illicit, okay? And it's in the Schisandraceae family with Schisandra and some other kind of esoteric garden plants that we have. So this is a U.S. native plant. It does bloom in the spring. The flowers are not, they're nothing to write home about. They do have yellowish, whitish flowers. You really grow it for the leaves, which in the normal species are dark green. And if you have it in the right spot, they're nice and thick. It's a great shrub, evergreen shrub for the kind of the back of the border. Any questions about Illicium parviflorum? Everyone like the scent of it? I like black licorice. That's a really good scent. All right. The next plant on the Follow Your Nose tour is this shrub right here. This is a South American shrub, and we're going to ignore all the mealy bugs that are along the stems. But I'm going to pass these around. You're going to take a leaf and, like we've done so frequently, crush it and smell it. And it's a bizarre smell. All right, the smell of the leaves of this plant has been described as peanut butter mixed with rubber. Okay, it's a very bizarre smell. It's really cool though. Anyone smell the peanut butter? So yeah, it's a really, and as a garden plant, this is a deciduous shrub. In the summertime, you can see it's kind of finishing up here. It produces these yellowish, orangish, yellowish tubular flowers that hummingbirds like, and butterflies and things like that. So it does attract pollinators. It is followed up by these dark seeds or fruits. This is in the family Solanaceae, which means it's quite toxic. So do not eat it, and do not plant it anywhere where an animal can eat it. It's reportedly toxic even to like horses. It can kill a horse. But yes, it'll treat your deer to do not come back. But it's very, very popular. It does attract hummingbirds, which is why most people grow it. They don't necessarily grow it because they like smelling the peanut butter and rubber leaves. All right, our next plant's right behind. Any questions about Cestrum? Yeah. Okay, the ideal growing conditions for Cestrum parkii are full sun and regular garden soil. Being as it's from South America down into like Argentina and places like that, I would imagine there's some drought tolerance built into it. It's kind of a drier place down there because it's on the shadowy side of the Andes Mountains. Does Cestrum parkii die back to the ground? Cestrum is considered to be zone 8. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it died back to the ground. And before I worked here, I worked at Plant Delights, and we were growing this in the greenhouses, and we would always cut it back to the ground because it would totally defoliate, and it just comes up from the base. Can you control the size of it? Only if you're willing to do a lot of pruning. I would say probably the best thing to do is find a spot for this size plant rather than to fit this plant into a smaller spot. Okay, we're going to turn around right behind here and go to the next plant. This one is another repeat of a plant I did in the spring. So if you were with me in the spring, this is a Gardenia jasminoides, and this is a cultivar called Lee 1. I thought at first it was Leon misspelled, but it's Lee 2 E's 1. And then it's sold under the trademark name Jubilation. And so this one has been selected for longer flowering. Gardenias bloom most heavily right around the end of May, early June, and then they put up 1s and 2s of flowers for the rest of the summer. I don't see any other gardenias in bloom right now, but this one has got quite a few blooms on it, so I think it's quite remarkable for that. And it's selected, it's a dwarf habit. This is its ultimate size, we'll call that 5 feet by 6 feet. Or 7. And of course, it's got the wonderful, wonderful smelling flower. So after I'm done talking, come on up and take a sniff. Gardenia is one of my favorite scents of all time. And I will, when mine are in bloom at home, I will carry them around and like a nosegay or a boutonniere or something and just have one next to me all day long if I can. Okay, come on up and take a sniff. All right, our next plant is another Lamiaceae or mint family plant called, this one's called Pycnanthemum incanum. Okay, and the common name is the hoary mountain mint. Now it's not hoary in the sense that you might be thinking. H-O-A-R is an old word meaning gray or silver. Okay, and so you can have hoarfrost. You've heard of hoarfrost, and old men are often said as having hoar-colored hair or hoar hair. H-O-A-R. This is a mint relative, and you can see it's called hoary mountain mint because it has the white hairs on the leaf that are kind of a light color. Now this is the end of the season, and it's out of bloom now. So it is looking a little ragged, but it gets about 3 or 4 feet tall, and Pycnanthemum is known to spread like other mints are. So it can be a little problematic if you want a plant that you don't have to touch all the time, but it has a wonderful mint scent.
Is this the one that's very good for pollinators?
Yes. Hoary mountain mint. Now, in the genus Pycnanthemum, there are many, many species. This is native also, by the way, so if you're a fan of native plants, Pycnanthemum is the way to go. There are many species of Pycnanthemum. Incanum is just one of them, and they are mostly all this kind of spreading, we'll call it a spreading herb. They do get a little woody at the base over time, and they all have this kind of leafy look. And now when they're in bloom in the summer, the flowers are whitish and known for attracting pollinators like crazy. This thing will be buzzing with pollinators. You can hear it before you can even see it. So it's a very good garden plant, even though this time of year it looks a little bit rough. Certainly you can cut it. It's very tough, very easy to grow, full sun, and lean-ish conditions are actually better than rich conditions for this plant. It'll help keep it in check, but it'll tolerate it just fine. Are there any questions about Pycnanthemum? There's another Pycnanthemum on the market, Pycnanthemum, I wrote it down, tenuifolium, which is a very, very low growing thing with very fine leaves, but it doesn't have very much fragrance. It's a nice, attractive garden plant, but if you really want that fragrance for yourself to brush by, then that's the worst of the Pycnanthemums to have. Incanum, montanum, there's 4 or 5 or 6 common ones on the market. This is not an uncommon plant. And you're starting to sneeze. By the time we're done, we'll all be sneezing because we'll all have inhaled so much. I did bring some Kleenex if you need some Kleenex. Okay, this next plant on our Follow Your Nose tour is a deciduous shrub, and you can see it's almost done for the winter. The leaves are mostly gone. This is Calycanthus floridas, and this is a cultivar called Burgundy Spice. The new growth on this particular cultivar is a burgundy or purple color that does kind of hang around to some extent for the whole growing season. Calycanthus is a native shrub to the southeastern U.S., actually down into Mexico, into Central America too. Common name is Sweet Betsy or Carolina Allspice, okay? And the reason it's, the flowers are, you really grow this for the flowers. They're big, they're almost camellia-sized flowers, and they can be white or maroon color, and they have a nice fruity scent. Now the fruity scent is inconsistent, so some parts of the day it's no scent at all, and other parts of the day it smells nice and fruity, and other parts of the day it smells bad. It's one of those ones where the scent molecules are turned on and off based on, environmental cues. But it also has a fragrant bark. And so this is what we're here to smell today is the bark. So I have cut some stems and I'm going to pass them around. And when you get one, I want you to scratch it with your fingernail. And we're all going to get dirty fingernails after this. And sniff it. The reason this is called Carolina allspice is that the bark has an allspice-like fragrance. And in colonial times, it was used as a substitute for cinnamon or allspice or nutmeg, that kind of spice, because the bark has that scent to it. And it was used culinarily in the past, not anymore, because we have, easy, quick world travel now. Do we have any cooks in the crowd today? Any chefs?
Right here, Carey.
Okay. Have you ever used bay?
Yes.
Bay leaf. The bay leaf comes from this evergreen shrub here, Laurus nobilis. Now, Laurus nobilis, these are very weakly scented, so you're really going to have to sniff hard. But it's got a cool story, so I did want to mention it. This is the bay that you use in cooking. Most people just throw a whole leaf in with their pot roast or something, but you can also dry it and grind it up and use it as a shake-on herb as well. And it is an evergreen shrub. This is a small specimen. We have 2 other specimens in the garden that are much bigger. One by the bayberry that we were standing by is kind of behind it, but it's so hidden you can hardly see it, but it is quite tall. And another one over in the winter garden. In Greek mythology, it's the symbol of victory. And so if you won a contest in Greek times, they would take this plant and weave you a crown of laurel leaves. So you ever read about laurel leaf crowns, they're talking about Laurus nobilis. And if you won a big award and you got one of these crowns, and then you spent the whole rest of your life doing nothing but bragging about how you won it, you were said to be resting on your laurels, okay? And if you get a college degree, the lowest level college degree, we call them bachelor's degrees. So that's an anglicization of baccalaureate. So laureate for the crown of you've made some accomplishment, but it's the lowest level one, bacca. So baccalaureate is also comes from this plant as well. So so this plant is not supposed to be hardy in North Carolina. It's an 8B, but every now and then we find specimens that are listed as hardy form or whatever, and we try them here. And so we do have a couple that have survived for years in here. I imagine if we were to get one of these surprise really cold winters like we're due any minute now, we'd have some problems with this plant, but you can have it at least for a few years, and it's a nice little plant to have. It's pretty. It doesn't do much other than the leaves, but it's a pretty evergreen shrub, and it's got a cool story, and you can cook with it. Questions about Laurus nobilis?
So that's in a fair amount of shade?
It is. No, it would prefer more sun. The other ones we have are kind of shaded, but that's just because the other plants around it have grown up over it over time. It would prefer more sun. Any other questions about laurel, bay laurel? Okay, if you'll turn around, the next plant is right behind us. So this is our annual trial beds. And we also do perennial trials. These few beds are for perennials. Companies that are releasing new plants to the market will pay gardens all over the country a little bit of money to trial it for a year, or in the case of perennials, 2 years, and see how it grows in that area. And if they find a plant that they've bred that grows well in a large enough area of the country, it's worth it for them to then market it and put it out on the market. And so that's what we're doing here. All of these are annuals and perennials. So right here we have a very, very dwarf butterfly bush, Buddleia. It's a hybrid. And this particular cultivar is called Chrysalis Steel Blue. And I'm picking it, although yesterday when I came out here, the flowers were wonderfully fragrant. This is one with fragrant flowers. I can barely smell them now. I suppose if you got down and gave it a sniff close up, they'd have it's a nice sweet fragrance, and it attracts butterflies. It's remarkable for how dwarf it is. This would actually be a good plant along a sidewalk. You don't normally think of butterfly bushes as being a plant you would just plant right up along the sidewalk. And it's also remarkable that it is still in bloom, because most other butterfly bushes are long done for the year. And so chrysalis steel blue is a pretty good choice. Any questions about Buddleia or about the trials or anything?
Are there two different ones here? That one looks bluer, this one looks pinker?
Yes. This one is chrysalis pink, this one's chrysalis steel blue, and I think the marker is right there. Yeah. She grows them in rows across the bed, and 5 or 10. It looks like she's done rows of 3, so it looks like 10 and 10 or 9 and 9. Buddleia is interesting. If you see it in the store, it's spelled Buddelia. But lately, if you see it here, these are not on these tags, but on our garden tags, we spell it, instead of that last I, we have the letter J. And it's kind of a weird story. It was given the name Buddleia in the 1700s by Linnaeus himself, the plant taxonomy guy. And back then in the 1700s, if you spoke Latin, the letter I and the letter J had the same sound and they were interchangeable. And so he just happened to use the J. It was an old-fashioned way of doing it, but he just happened to use the J instead of the I. And so that's how he published it. Later on, the taxonomists were like, well, that's an old-fashioned use. Let's just use the I. And now they're kind of going back. The taxonomists are like, no, let's be sticklers for the rule. He wrote it with a J. Let's call it a J. No matter how it's spelled, you don't say Buddleia. It's not like that, or ja. You say it like the letter I, Buddleia, no matter whether it has an I or a J in it. Because in medieval Europe, the version of Latin they spoke, they sounded the same, kind of like how C and S kind of have the same sounds sometimes. Okay, we're going to go down to a couple of beds down to our next plant. All right, all of the plants in this row here, they all have different colored flowers. They are all different types of a plant called Agastache. Okay, and there's a East Coast Agastache funiculum, which has kind of pale lavender flowers. And then there's West Coast Agastaches. There's a lot of species of them, and they have a variety of brightly colored flowers. But they can't tolerate our humidity. And then you have some Asian Agastaches too. These breeders are taking all of those and crossing them and finding brightly colored hybrids that can take our heat and humidity. And so it's sold as you can buy it sometimes as an annual. It's sold often as a short-lived perennial. In the height of the season, they're covered with these long-lasting, colorful flowers. So we have orangish yellow, we have an orangish red, coral, purple, wide variety of colors. Pollinators absolutely love these plants. And all of the leaves, these are in the family Lamiaceae, the mint family, and all of the leaves have mint overtones to them, but other things as well. There's citrus scents, there's bubblegum scents, there's mixtures of bubblegum and mint, which is a weird mixture, but it smells good. So I'm gonna, all of y'all should come by and take a pinch of one or more of these leaves and give it a whiff. This is more of just mint. This is less mint and more of a kind of a camphor. So it's a wide variety of scents. You grow this plant full sun and not too wet. It stays fairly low and it attracts pollinators like crazy. All right, while y'all are sniffing the Agastache, I'm going to talk about the next one, which is right here in front of me. And this is Nepeta, which is a relative of that Clinopodium we did at the beginning of the tour. And you can see this is a little bit different shape. Nepeta, one of the species of Nepeta is catnip. This is not that species, but this is called catmint. And there are many different cultivars of it. This particular one is called Junior Walker. Yeah, Junior Walker is famous. It's a very low growing, blooms for a long period of time. It attracts pollinators. And this one has a fruity, camphory scent to it. It's a very interesting scent. Any questions about Nepeta Junior Walker? It's a hybrid. It's not a straight species.
Why do they call it Junior Walker?
Junior Walker is somebody's name, and I don't know whose it is.
He was a famous musician.
Okay. All right. So yeah, these marketing types, they will often pick a name that they hope catches on with the public. So you'll see alliteration, you'll see famous people, Crazy Daisy and, things like that to get the public excited about them.
Wasn't there a Nepeta Walker's Low,
There is a Walker's Low, yeah.
which isn't low?
Isn't it? No? Well, this is even lower than that. I know Tim likes this one. He's got it in several places in the garden. Okay, our next plant, and we're near the end. We have one more after this. This is a marigold. It's a popular annual. It's been popular for hundreds and hundreds of years in European gardens and then came over to America. The funny thing is, though, it came into the US through Europe. This is a plant that's native to Mexico. So it went from Mexico to Africa, to the ports in Africa, up into Europe, and then was bred and came back to us. The common name for these big ones, like these yellow and orange ones over here, is African marigold, because the fellow who first wrote it up say, oh, I got this from that port in Africa, it must be African. They're all Mexican. In fact, marigolds are this is October and soon to be the Dia de la Muerta. And this is the main flower used in the Dia de la Muerta, the Day of the Dead, where the Mexican people celebrate the lives of their family who have passed away. And but we're here to talk about its scent. Y'all can come up in a second and pick a flower and smell the flower. Also pinch the leaves and smell the leaves. And they have a very distinct odor. Now, I like it. I wouldn't want perfume made out of this, but it's an interesting, distinct odor. And that odor, although the flowers themselves are very attractive to pollinators, the leaves and the roots help repel insects. This is a plant that's a great companion plant for your vegetable garden. You plant it near your tomatoes and your basil and things like that, and it repels the insect pests away from them. So you have your bed of tomatoes and then surround the bed with some marigolds, and you'll give them a little bit of natural free protection. They can make a form of pyrethrum from marigold leaves, although pyrethrum is made mostly from another plant. And it's got a beautiful story in Mexican mythology or lore, in Aztec lore. There was a young couple, a boy and a girl, who were in love with each other and had picked some of these flowers and given them to the gods as a tribute gift. And then the boyfriend went off to war and was killed. The girlfriend was so sad, she went back to the top of the mountain and said to the god, please, take me with, put me back together with him. I don't want to live without him. So this Aztec god, turned her into a marigold and brought the boyfriend back as a hummingbird who would pollinate the marigold. So very romantic story also with this from Aztec times. So, and her name was Xochitl, and his name, I can't remember it. It's got Z's and I's and L's and H's in it. It's, you have to Google it, but it's a fun story. Very romantic. Any questions about marigolds?
So is this what it originally looked like when it was first?
In the wild, it's probably just plain colors, like plain yellow, plain orange, plain whatever, and then they've hybridized them. There's 50 or so species, and the one that came in as African marigold is one species, Tagetes erecta, but there are other species, and so they get the double flowers and the multiple colors, or the double flowers that are tall but still tightly branched. Those come in from the hybrids. So what they look like in nature is really just more of a plain yellow flower. Any other questions about marigolds? My first job in horticulture out of college, with my horticulture degree, I was the annual grower for a local wholesale nursery, and marigolds were my favorite, the annuals that I grew. Second favorite. My favorite was annual vinca, that red one over there, three beds down. That was my favorite. But this is a really good annual. Any other questions? I have one more stop, and it's one you all already know, but it is our last stop. All right, the last plant on our Follow Your Nose tour is one everybody knows. This is basil, but it's very, very fragrant, and the fragrant part is the leaves. And of course, we use this in culinary. settings. This is a plant that is native to India and Southeast Asia and Indonesia, that part of the world, but it is used worldwide in cooking. And there are lots and lots of cultivars of it that they've selected for different flavors. Some are more cinnamony, some are less cinnamony and more citrusy, and some are sweeter and some are spicier, you know, hot cinnamon type. And so but they attract a lot of pollinators, and it's a beautiful plant on its own too. Now, part of the annual trials here, sometimes the breeders want us to grow them in pots because they want to see how they would do, like in those cities where they put a lot of plants in pots around the city. So they have us trial these plants in pots, and they also have us do food crops. So there's some tomatoes there, some kale. We have peppers over there, and so we do some food crops as well as ornamentals.
Annual then?
Basil is an annual, and there are supposedly a few that are perennial, and every time we've ever tried them, they're annual. And there is one that we propagate over and over again and use in the garden every year, but it's an annual, and we sell it on the plant stand, and we give it away a lot. It's African basil. It's just a version of basil with purpley, bluey, purpley flowers. Any other questions about basil? All right, thanks for coming out today. Don't forget to stop by the gift shop on the way out. We do actually have one of the plants there is fragrant. We have an Artemisia, which is a nice silvery foliaged plant, and it's very fragrant. So if you're now into fragrant plants, that's one you can get.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.